Today is Winnie the Pooh Day. And to celebrate, Miss Janet is going to be reading a bit of his story every hour on the hour throughout the day. And I thought I'd tell you a story about who Winnie actually was. The story Winnie the Pooh was actually based on a real bear, a Canadian bear no less. So I'm going to read Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. And it's written by Lindsay Mattick, and it's illustrated by Sophie Blackall, and the publisher is Harper Collins. Could you tell me a story? Asked Cole. It's awfully late. It was long past dark and time to be asleep. What kind of a story? You know, a true story. What about a bear? We cuddled up close. I'll do my best, I said. So this is Cole and his mommy getting ready for bedtime story. A very long time ago, about 100 years before you were born, there was a veterinarian who lived in Winnipeg. His name was Harry Colburn. A vegetarian? Said Cole. Bear doesn't like vegetables. A veterinarian. It means an animal doctor. I know that, Cole said. That's what I'm going to be maybe when I'm big. If a horse had the hiccups or a cow had a cough, Harry knew how to make them feel just right. Harry's hands were never cold, even in Winnipeg, where winters are so frosty that icicles grow on the inside of your nose. That was just the kind of doctor he was. He was a pretty good doctor. And there is Harry. But a day came when Harry had to say goodbye to Winnipeg. There was a war far, far away, beyond the end of the country and on the other side of the ocean, and he was going to help. He would be caring for the soldiers' horses. Harry rode east on a train full of other soldiers. He leaned his head against the window, watching the land scroll by, wondering what it would be like to be so far from home. So there he is on his train, traveling east. The train rolled right through dinner and over the sunset and around 10 o'clock and into a nap and out the next day until it stopped at a place called White River. Harry decided to stretch his legs. On the train platform was a man on a bench with a baby. A baby, said Cole, annoyed. So this is his trip. It's taken him quite a while to get there. And there's the train station. And he's approaching that man on the bench because there's a baby there with him. But it wasn't really a baby, it was a baby bear, a cub. Harry stopped. It's not every day that you see a bear cub at a train station. That bear has lost its mother, he thought, and that man must be the trapper who got her. What do trappers do? Asked Cole. It's what trappers don't do. They don't raise bears. Raise them? You know, I said. Love them. So here you can just see little bear cub hiding underneath the seat. Not quite sure what's going on. Harry thought for a long time. Then he said to himself, there is something special about that bear. He felt inside his pocket and said, I shouldn't. He paced back and forth and said, I can't. Then his heart made up his mind, and he walked up to the trapper and said, "I'll give you $20 for the bear." "Is $20 a lot?" asked Cole. "Back then," I said, "even more than a lot." So here we go. He's thinking, and finally decides to buy the bear. "Captain Colburn," said the colonel on the train, as the little bear sniffed at his knees, "we are on a journey of thousands of miles, heading into the thick of battle, and you propose to bring this most dangerous creature?" Bear stood straight up on her hind legs as if to salute the colonel. The colonel stopped speaking at once, and then in quite a different voice he said, "Oh, hello." The men of Harry's regiment squeezed by to have a look. "I've decided to name her Winnipeg," Harry told them, "so we'll never be far from home. Winnie for short." So that's how she got her name. They had a very long way to travel, and they had already gone 3 or 4 feet when Winnie grew hungry. "What do bears eat?" the men wondered. "What don't they eat?" said Harry. "Vegetables," Cole reminded me. "Winnie ate vegetables," I said. "She ate everything except onions." They brought her carrots and potatoes and apples and tomatoes and eggs and beans and bread and a tin of fish and some slop in a dish. But Winnie was still hungry. "How about dessert?" said Harry, holding up a bottle of condensed milk. Taking the treat in her paws, Winnie lay on her back and hummed a happy song as she drank. The men roared. So this is all the food that they were bringing her, and she was just eating it all up. Harry and Winnie gathered with soldiers from all over Canada in the green fields of Valcartier. A whole city of tents had sprung up there. One was a hospital for horses, where Harry went to work. So these are the soldiers' tents at Valcartier. And that's where Harry is going to be spending his time working, taking care of the horses. Winnie was in the army now. Harry taught her to stand up straight and hold her head high and turn this way and that, just so. Soon she was assigned her own post. Even the colonel agreed that Winnie was a remarkable bear. She might have been the best navigator in the whole army. If you hid something, she could find it. What if it was farther away and farther still? Remarkable, he cried. So Winnie's skills at finding things were pretty good. The 2 men up top, she went and found 2 little apple cores in 2 different areas, and they were quite a distance apart. So she was a pretty good navigator. In the evening, both of them were too tired to move. When Harry thought about Winnie and the voyage across the ocean, his head said, "I shouldn't." His head said, "I can't." But his heart made up his mind. Don't think he could leave her behind. Nobody had ever tried to float so many people and animals across the Atlantic Ocean before. 30 ships sailed together, carrying about 36,000 men and about 7,500 horses, and about 1 bear named Winnie. And there is Winnie on the edge of the ship. When they finally arrived in England, the regiment went to training on the Salisbury Plain, where it rained and rained and rained. But Winnie didn't seem to mind. She was the mascot of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade, and she attended her post with vigor. One day, Harry came running while she was doing her exercises in the tent. "You'll bring the whole place down," he said with a laugh. She had grown. She was no longer a baby anymore. It was winter when the order came. The time had come to fight. Winnie posed proudly with the men for pictures to send home to their families. Harry thought for a long time. His head argued one way and then the other, but his heart made up his mind. He went to Winnie and said in a serious way, "There's somewhere we need to go." Winnie brushed the mud off her nose and nuzzled in close. So here she is, getting her picture taken with the men in the infantry. And there she is, knowing that they're going to have a nice long talk about something really important. Harry drove all the way to the big city. "Here we are," said Harry, "the London Zoo." Harry took a deep breath. "Winnie, this is going to be your home for a while," he said. She tilted her head. "We're shipping out to France," he explained. "I have to take care of the horses at the front." She rested her big head against him. "I know you want to come, but it's not safe." Winnie's head bowed. Harry's hands were as warm as sunshine, as usual. "There's something you must always remember," Harry said. "It's the most important thing, really. Even if we're apart, I'll always love you. You'll always be my bear." So here they are, going to the London Zoo. And he's telling her how much he loves her. "Is that the end?" "That's the end of Harry and Winnie's story," I said. "But I don't want it to be over," said Cole. "Sometimes," I said, "you have to let one story end so the next one can begin. How do you know when that will happen?" "You don't," I said, "which is why you should always carry on." So this is our next story. Once upon a time, there was a little boy with a stuffed bear. He'd had his bear ever since he was a baby, but somehow the boy had never found the right name for him. He tried Teddy and Edward and even Big Bear. And this is the new little boy with his stuffed bear. One day, the boy went to visit the London Zoo with his father, and there was a bear, a real bear, on the terraces right there. Right away, the boy thought, "There's something special about that bear." Her name was Winnie. They became true friends. The boy was allowed to come right inside her enclosure to play. Once the boy had found Winnie, he knew just what to call his stuffed bear. He named it Winnie the Pooh. And the boy was called Cole, said Cole. Okay, so there's Winnie. She's still in the London Zoo, and she's made friends with the little boy. The little boy's name was Christopher Robin Milne. Christopher Robin would visit Winnie at the zoo, and then he would take his stuffed animal on all sorts of adventures in the wood behind his home. His father, Alan Alexander Milne, wrote books all about them. Harry's Winnie became Winnie the Pooh, and there has never been a more beloved bear. But what about Harry? Cole asked. When Harry visited Winnie at the zoo, he saw how happy she was. She was being raised. She was truly loved. And that was all he ever wanted, from the moment they met at the train station in White River. So after the war, Harry returned to Winnipeg in his life as an animal doctor. Before long, he was married and had a son named Fred. And Fred had a daughter named Laureen. And Laureen had a daughter named Lindsay. What was the name of the author's? The front? Lindsay. And that's the author. And then Lindsay had a son. And when she saw her son, she thought, there is something special about this boy. So she named him after his great-great-grandfather, Captain Harry Colburn. I named you Cole. So here we are. There's Cole and his mom, and she's telling them the story. And then that's the family. Family tree, I guess you'd call it. That's me, said Cole. That's you. And that's Winnie? Yes, I said, that's Winnie. And it's all true? Sometimes the best stories are, I said. Cole's eyes grew big and he said nothing for a long time. Then he hugged his own bear close and let out a yawn that reached far away, and they both turned over and fell asleep. So that's the end of the story, but she does have this lovely little album section at the end. So let's look at some of her family pictures. So there's Harry as a young soldier. And Harry kept diaries throughout World War I. This was the diary from 1914, which 1914 was the first year of the war. And the diary page from the day that Harry found Winnie, which was August 24th, 1914, he wrote, "Bought bear, $20. And then we have pictures of Winnie with various soldiers. And then Harry and all the fellow soldiers with their mascot, Winnie. Those are the cards that they sent to the families at home. And then this is a picture of Winnie and Harry. And this picture inspired the statues that are standing in Winnipeg and in London. And this is the statue that is in Winnipeg. And it was unveiled in 1992. And then we get to Christopher Robin. So there he is with the real Winnie at the zoo in London. And this is the official animal record card that shows that Winnie began her stay at the London Zoo on December 9th, 1914. And then this one is the author and Cole. So Lindsay and Cole, the descendants of the veterinarian who bought Winnie for $20 one day in 1914. And all these years later, we're still reading stories about Winnie. So it's a pretty cool and amazing story, and just think it sort of started in Canada. So that's Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear by Lindsay Mattick. And this story is close to her heart because it's part of her history. The illustrator was Sophie Blockall, and the publisher was Harper Collins. So enjoy your Winnie the Pooh day. Till next time, bye.